For everyone who enjoyed last Tuesday's 7-1 victory, allow me to reintroduce you to a little something I call the football. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith, the Black Man on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, that's the football, isn't it? And it is the thing that keeps us endlessly mystified, hooked, happy, and miserable all at once. In that you can have the biggest away win in knockout rounds of European football ever, and then be shit. And everybody thinks you're shit, and everybody's miserable 4 or 5 days later. It is an incredible thing that football does to us, and it leaves us saying one thing on a Tuesday and the opposite thing on a Sunday. It is such a weird phenomenon, and we're going to try to make sense of it, because so many of the things that you saw, that you loved, that we said, that we felt, that we believed about the win over PSV, totally undone and undermined on Sunday in the draw against United. And I get that there is a lot of frustration out there. Some of it I connect to, some of it I don't. I was really, really upset at the end of the United game. We did an instant reaction that was more about getting out the real frustration. I don't like the word anger. It's not anger, right? Because we are in love with this club. We are in love with being together about this club. And it is only because we're in love with this club that we get so frustrated by things like this. But so that's out there on the instant reaction. I think this time, today, we will try to understand what happened, where some of the issues are, not overstate what they are, but try to express from an individual performance standpoint, tactical standpoint, and just circumstantial standpoint where we are and where this leaves our league season, because I think that is something that people are going to be wondering about. I want to thank everyone who sent nice messages as I struggled through illness over the last few days, and definitely the worst illness I've had in not ever probably, but over a decade. And, your health is one of those things that when it goes, you realize how important it is. Thanks for bearing with me. I will say, through the haze of the sickness, we did what I think is a fantastic Andrea Berta pod over on the Patreon. Jeremy came on, and he's from one of the biggest English language athletic sites in the world, and he did a brilliant discussion of Berta's time in Madrid and what he's done there. Some of the signings he was responsible for, wasn't responsible for, the roles he had, but the role maybe he didn't have, and the agents he's connected to, the contracts he renegotiated, why he's moving on, what he thinks of him as a candidate for Arsenal. And I really was impressed by his knowledge. If you want that, it is over on the Patreon, and you can use code AVP and sign up for the first month for $2.50. Which, who knows, by the time you're listening to this, might be worth half a pound, a third of a pound, tenth of a pound, who knows, 17 pounds. The global economy is beyond my pay grade. But what I will say is it's probably worth a listen, as it looks like he is going to be confirmed as our director of football. So, that's one that I'm pretty proud of. We also did our second in the director of football series with Scott. So we've got Phil's and Scott's director of football there. So you have an article about our new actual director of football, an episode, and then 2 episodes about guys who really deserve it in Phil and Scott, but who are passed over for reasons I don't understand. Anyway, we love you for being here. Thanks for being part of a community that is, I think, trying to make sense of an otherwise very, very bizarre season. And here to make sense of it is the man who always finds some sense in the haze and uncertainty of football. And that is Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I can see your cheekbones now, so that's good for you. Good to see you're back and fit and healthy and on your way back anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what's all this Ozempic nonsense? All you need is to throw up for 3 days straight. I mean, maybe have it come out both ends for a while.
I need that Ozempic stuff. So,
what's crazy? Just on a sidetrack about that is like the Ozempic thing. They're basically finding out it's a miracle drug. People are like microdosing it because it helps with skin, and people are taking it for like addiction and mental health. And now they think it might help with like Alzheimer's prevention and stuff. So pretty soon, you're just going to be able to take that Ozempic. We're all going to be thin, pretty, smart, happy. And none of us are going to even remember when Arsenal Football Club annoyed us. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, you think?
No, probably not.
I must admit,
it's not a miracle.
As I was prepping for the game yesterday, I did listen to the Berta pod, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So,
good,
bravo.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like I said, I hardly remember recording it, but I thought he was great knowledge from him. So, kudos to you, Jeremy. So just starting with this, Clive. I mean, look, it's as I said in the intro. only football can do this to you, make you feel one way on a Tuesday and another way on a Sunday that are just diametrically opposite. I want to start with the United of this, as weird as it sounds. I think the reason I was as upset as I was at full time is that for one half of football, or at least 43 or 44 minutes of football, I have never seen any supposed big club in a big ground in a big rivalry game look like they had so little, not just capability, but interest in competing for a game as United looked. And I'm just wondering if that is the most funereal, uninterested, talentless, listless performance from a big opponent that you can ever remember. Because I think that contributes to why there was a sense of frustration at full time.
Yeah, many things probably contributed to the frustration. I do think, for my sins, I rewatched the game this morning. I watched Match of the Day, and I rewatched the whole thing, which I taped on Sky. Right, so
incredible dedication.
I had to do it because it's important for the listener that I don't just walk into it like I did yesterday. Because yesterday, for example, I went out to watch the game. So a good friend of mine is a football coach and an ex-Manchester United player. So we sat together in a bar, which was primarily Manchester United fans. And so
it's in the London area, so that makes sense.
And I have a perspective, of the game and how I felt after it, which really was relief that we didn't lose. Then I picked up my phone and I realised that I lived in my own little Clive's world, and relief was not the emotion I was seeing on my phone. To all of my well-meaning tweets, which I've now deleted, my well-meaning tweets look stale after about 20 minutes after kickoff, and it's like people are just getting stuck in it all overnight. I think, oh, bloody hell. So I on the rewatch here, I watched it this morning, and Tim would normally have gone to this. It wasn't a ladies' game on the same day, but I'd love to know what he felt about the atmosphere in the ground, because there was demonstrations and you could hear things in the background which were not linked to the pitch. So it gave a strange atmosphere. Manchester United stood off, massively away from us, and we just played our game. And I watched it, mate. I watched it, and some of the things that we do, you can close your eyes and say that's Arsenal's football. They're right there. Everything was there until that final pass, when you're literally asking the wrong people to pass to the wrong people. And as the game went on, I think we lost a little bit of offensive belief as the game went on, because basically all they did was one long ball. We didn't raise the second ball, and suddenly we're 1-0 down. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh my gosh, how's this happened? And so it did feel like a strange place to be. And it's quite difficult when you're playing and there's a rhythm of a game developing and you can hear demonstrations and cheering and different things. It must have been quite strange. But that doesn't excuse the fact that we have some problems around execution and details in the final third. We do. And I don't know what I just want to say this now, I'm going to say it. It feels like to me that we are a victim of Arteta's coaching. He has developed a team which allows us to dominate completely, so much so that people think, you know what, I can't play him. If I play him, we're going to get killed. We're going to get done 5, 6, 7. But we've created this dominance, and we've almost created our own problem, because then we haven't got the players to execute on that dominance. Yeah. And we have got one, right? Maybe 1.5, 2. And the 1.5, 2 in Havertz, people don't like him all the time. And 1, we overburden, and he's not been here since November. And so we've developed a problem based on pretty good identity. But it's quite difficult podcasting, mate, when everyone knows what the issue is. It's all about degrees of failure, degrees of anger, degrees of who you want to blame. And that could vary from people on the pitch and off the pitch. And it's a frustrating time really at the moment.
Yeah, well, so and I think it is the case that we think United were terrible, because they were. But, Ruben Amorim made something clear. That wasn't how they wanted to play. He said it in his post-match press conference. It's not that they just said, we're going to sit in a low block and see if you can break us down. They were forced into that. Yep. He made it clear we did that to them. So while the first half is frustrating in the sense that I don't think we showed the urgency to score a goal or the creativity to score a goal that's necessary. And Rice even said in his post-match comments, we lacked creativity. And so in the end, we were lucky
We
to
lack
get the draw.
quality of creativity. Does that make
Yes.
sense? Because we got there
Sure.
and the quality of pass, dinks high up to the chest, to the head, over just 3 yards further forward, missed timing of runs. I mean, it's just those details, right? Which all seem to click in Eindhoven that weren't there in this game.
Yeah, of course. And so, but first of all, and this is why I think nuance can be frustrating to people, because all anybody wants to do is rail about how ineffective we were in the final third. But the first 2/3 of football are dominating the ball, pushing the opponent back, and getting to the final third.
Yeah.
And at that, especially in the first half, we were imperious. And United looked like a little dog that had been told to sit. I mean, they were so stuck in their defensive third that they had no out ball. Xerxes wasn't even trying to get out. The only times they got out 2 times. And that was interesting, actually. Both times when Ethan tried to cut inside and lost the ball centrally. And we have a lot of this discussion about, do we not try central progression and central possession enough because we're emphasizing defensiveness? We're emphasizing, in fact, protecting ourselves from being countered. And if you notice, the 2 most dangerous counters United had in the whole first half came from 2 Ethan losses of
In the center
possession
of the
centrally.
pitch. Yeah. And this is, I know people don't hear it, but I thought we tried to access century a lot in this game. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, more than we normally do, because I don't feel our wide men were really pinned to the lines like we normally are. So sometimes I think we take the easy option to go out to Saka and go out to Martinelli, and then we get there when we can. But I felt we were trying to go century, and it did cause a couple of problems, but not for much long, mate. One pass, and we got it back again because they were average. And to be fair to Anthony Taylor, I thought he managed the physical duels between our centre backs and Xerxes quite well. He didn't fall for it. And a lot of refs do, particularly when we're away from home. And that allows us to create waves of attack. So I was actually looking at this game. So I'm looking at this game this morning, Elliot. I'm thinking, okay, let me watch this game. It's important because there are angry people out there. Let me see if I can spot the anger. Let me see if I can spot it. And I watched that first half. I thought, bloody hell, I'm going to have to tell Elliot that we were really good in the first half. How's that going to go down? But some of it was really, really good.
Again, he's at Clive. Well, but so this is the thing then. I can praise the structure and the system and the effectiveness of the football we play that pushes teams back. I think there are 2 things that I want to highlight, though, that are important here. One is, and I made a few notes of this as I was watching the game, it does feel at times, Clive, that we pat ourselves on the back. I don't mean fans. I mean the players themselves for just having the ball in the final third with dominant possession. There seems to be a sense of mission accomplished. I wrote that it almost feels like we think there's a counter, that for every minute we have the ball in the attacking third, we get a point, because there's a
drills. In training drills,
we fall into this very
means a goal. That's what you're doing from training drills, right?
Yes, we fall very quickly into this comfort level of, hey, Odegaard to Ethan, and Ethan to Party, and Party to Odegaard, and Odegaard to Timber, and we think that we're getting basically points for that, where meanwhile the defense has just sat there in a 5-3 shape in front of us going, well, you're not actually moving us around. You're not actually doing much. I'm being a little dismissive, but do you think that we lack an urgency to make a little run off the last man or try that darting pass? The pass that I think we just seem pretty unwilling to play is the one between fullback and center back. That space, which I think Saka's good at exploiting, or sometimes Odegaard will get in there when Saka's in there and they play it to each other. But what do we need to do, or what are we not doing to make those moments of possession feel like something more than just a sense of accomplishment for having arrived in the final third?
Yeah, I mean, I watched all the games like many people, but I've often spoke about a lack of threat, a lack of running through. Saka's the only one that runs through consistently. But I thought we tried in this game. Okay. I thought Rice ran through a lot. I thought Timber, again, magnificent. He ran through a lot. Martinelli had a couple, and I could see people trying to do it. Whereas in some games, it felt very much in front, particularly West Ham. Yeah, I'm going to mention West Ham for the next 6 months, podcasters. I'm sorry, mate, listeners, because that game has scarred me because we didn't do any of that in that game. Not at any point. We just played in front. So I felt we went through, but I've got to be honest here, right? You react when you're on the pitch and you've got really good, dangerous attacking players, Elliot. They spook you, right? So we've got tidy players, but I don't think they spook you. At the moment, we don't have the people that make you scared, right? So they got comfortable. I looked at my sofa score this morning, and between Trossard and Odegaard, I think there are 11 shots. Now, a number of them on target. If I said to you that, Elliot, 11 shots between them guys, check my numbers, mate, 11 shots, and we'd want that, wouldn't we? We want that.
Yeah.
But can you remember, any of them that made you think, did any of them spring to mind? Odegaard won in the last couple of minutes. I mean, that used to be a goal in recent times. Trossard, little touch, comes inside on his right foot, touch, a back heel touch inside. The goal opened out. Think Leicester, think West Ham. That's just a top corner for him. Goes past the post. That threat and that fear factor and that quality on the last action isn't there. And when it is there, we get PSV. Right? So, it's the same thing. We tried to get our fullbacks forward. We tried to be aggressive in wide areas, but we didn't do the job. We didn't finish off. We didn't take that first chance. Back post header in PSV, Rice to Timber. In this game, it was Timber to Rice to get the goal. That back post header is the sort of chance you want for that first goal. Bang, in. Second goal, flashed it in, right out of nowhere. Suddenly, everyone's tipper. They're running around, all want the ball, and we go and slaughter them, right? So that first goal, so key. Those first actions, the quality when we're on top wasn't there, and that's the truth. And some of that's individual quality, Elliot. I'll be honest with you. On the day, individual quality and execution was missing.
Yeah. I think it's one of those age-old debates, I think, in general, that you wind up in football. Is it the manager's tactics letting the players down, or is it the talent of the players not doing what the manager would want them to do? I think Mikel was very clear in his post-match comments, and I have some of them here, but basically he said today the efficiency we had in the last 20 meters, it wasn't good enough. We know that. Those are big parts of a lot of things that the game demands when you come to Old Trafford, and what we did was superb, but at the end you have to capitalize on that when the team is so dominant and much better than the opposition, and today we didn't. Then you have to overturn a result, which we know is very difficult to do here. You have to expose yourself a little bit more because you have to take more risks. And then the game could have gone their way in the last few minutes. And this is something that you messaged me, and I think I feel very strongly about this. When Arsenal score a first goal, and take that burden off ourselves of, are we going to score and where's it going to come from, and maybe force the other team to rethink their tactics. It changes a lot. But I think I've seen in Arsenal this season too often halves of football where we're just willing to control the game and manage the game for a half. And then suddenly something goes against us and we're all sat here. We've all said it, right? Like, how are we behind? And we dominated that game. But were we really doing the hurtful things to try to make sure we got our nose in front? Because when we do, you wind up with 7-1. You wind up with 5 goals against City. You do the things that change games. And I think this is another example of that, Clive, where we were probably just a little too comfortable controlling the game. Yeah. We are very unlucky to go behind, and we'll come to the free kick in a bit. But it is a first goal game for Arsenal these days, especially as limited as we are in attack. And I think the team has to come out and show a lot more urgency to get the first goal because of how much it changes the patterns of these games.
Totally agree. Do you remember Fast Start FC a couple of years ago? We'd tear out the blocks and we'd rip into people. No, I don't think anyone knew where they were standing. We just went for them, got the first goal, and the game opened up.
Can I stop you just for a second on that? Just hold you for a second on that, because I think people were right to point out, well, could we do it? We did play in midweek, but they played 2 days later. Yeah. Our tie is dead. Their tie is live. Right. They had more injuries and less chance to freshen up than we did. So I think it was all right there for us actually to go try to put a nail in the coffin and have them thinking about what they've got on Thursday. You know what I mean? It was set up for that perfect quick out of the blocks approach.
Yeah, I did a couple of shows last week and everyone's saying, what's the score going to be? Man United were fearful. They had the demonstrations. Everyone's saying, 2-3-0, 3-0. I'm thinking, mate, I think I'm too wise for this. I understand what Old Trafford does to people. And what Man United, they turned up against City. They turned up against Liverpool. They ain't going to let Arsenal rock in there and do anything they want to them. And they do remember their badge against us, I'm afraid. And I think you're right. I'd love to see us be a bit more aggressive from the start, but we were pretty aggressive. It was embarrassingly how dominant we were, and they kicked it out about 5 times. People were laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to sit and watch it with United fans is really interesting because you hear them talking about your team and your players, and it's quite interesting. There's a lot of anger towards Odegaard online. But they were going, oh my God, I wish we had a player like him in the first half. I mean, literally, he ran the game. And look at him. And everyone was watching him going, look at him. Look at him going. And it's so interesting where we're saying we can remember the shots and the weakness and the powder puffing to the shots and him getting a bit quieter in the second half. And we don't see it the same way. So it's really interesting. I wanted that perspective because sometimes we're so narrow-minded with our own team. And so one last thing, Elliot. Arteta did an interview pre-game with Patrick Davidson, the guy he walked out on in the interview after the game, who I think does a really good job with Arteta. He's very good at interviewing him. And he actually asked him, what is the next evolution for your team? And you know what he said? Efficiency.
Yep.
Being more efficient. He pointed towards both boxes. Efficiency. And I thought, bingo. But well, how do you become more efficient? And I think this is profile related, player profile related. You've got to have different types of profiles. And I was watching that screen yesterday, and I just felt like we had a team of 10 midfielders. That's what it felt like to me. And they were controlling the ball like midfielders. And then you're asking for urgency, Elliot. You know who brings urgency to the game? Forwards. Because they have that different mindset. When you end up with a team of facilitators, you're going to get facilitation football, right? We're asking Odegaard to be a forward. We're asking Trossard to be a killer forward. We know he can play in midfield, and he's a support player, second phase action guy, right? We're asking Marino to be a forward, who's quite efficient for a midfielder regarding goal scoring, but he's not a forward. We're asking Ethan to suddenly come into the team at 17 in front of 73,000 people and be a forward on the right wing. Right, so we are where we are, and we're judging the team, and I am too, by the way, through that lens. But we've ended up in a situation where we're asking Declan Rice to get us out of trouble, which he did.
Yeah,
and that's
he did.
That wasn't the guy you thought we were signing, was it, mate? When we scouted him.
No, certainly not. He's a player who is talented enough to do just about anything. I think in a way, actually, Rice's game and Odegaard's game are the perfect encapsulation of the difference between them right now, because I think you could say Odegaard had a better game than Declan Rice in 85% of the portions of the game. But what Declan Rice has right now that Martin Odegaard just very much doesn't have right now is he makes the critical interactions, the critical involvements in a game. He impacts the game in the high leverage moments. Football is actually really about 90 minutes where almost nothing happens and 30 seconds where everything happens. And Declan Rice is in those 30 seconds right now where everything happens, and Martin Odegaard is not. Can I
hold you there, mate? Because I have to hold you there because people are going to disagree with you.
I know they are.
Declan Rice was outstanding from minute 1 to minute 9.
Of course he was.
I just make sure you get clarified, because I tell you, mate, he made so many parts of the pitch better. There are periods in that game where he made Partey look redundant. There are periods in that game where he made Odegaard look redundant. He saved us in the back line. I mean, I was stunned on the second rewatch. He's even better than the first one. Honestly,
he's fantastic. I said this in the instant reaction, Clive. He's the only player, I think, outside of our defensive line that's playing at the level required right now. He's the only player outside of the Saliba and Gabriel and David Raya who is playing at the level that's required right now.
With the urgency required, mate. That's the key line.
With the urgency and just with, not just the urgency, the quality. The absolute quality, because you don't win a title just because you're well coached and you have talent. You have to have quality. Yeah. You have to have a player that Declan Rice goal is sensationally taken. We'll come on to it a bit later, but that's the expectation. You have to score some good goals. It can't all be tap-ins or headers from corners. Sometimes you have to kick the ball in the net good. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. and this is why I think Odegaard is coming in for criticism in this game, is because again, I think to your point, in the first half, I think he did a lot of really good things. But this is the point. He had 5 shots in this game, and I can remember every single one of them, and they're all, with one exception, the free kick, which is dreadful, pretty presentable chances that he hits poorly. And this is what I'm saying. When the big moment comes to Odegaard right now, it is not really coming off from. You know what? I had a friend who had a cat that was declawed, and don't send me the messages. I know that's not a humane thing to do to a cat, but it was declawed. And the cat was wonderful, but every once in a while it'd get mad at you and it would attack you. And you'd see this cat coming at you to attack you, and you'd be very scared. And then these little powder puff paws would keep hitting you. And you're like, look at this thing. Look at this, a flurry of powder puff paws. And, and that's what I feel about us at times, which is we look vicious and we look like we're going to go do something, but we're declawed. We don't have the sharp end of the pitch. We don't have the claws to really shred the opposition when the time comes to do that thing. And Declan Rice right now is doing that thing, and he did that thing in this game. And I do want to clarify my point about Odegaard being better than Rice in certain ways. I think that Martin Odegaard is misunderstood as this player who's supposed to be this fantasy number 10 who's going to unlock defenses. I just don't think that's who he is. And Declan Rice said after the game, we lacked creative quality. It is not Martin Odegaard's fault that he is the only player in the squad that is relied upon to have the qualities to pull a defense apart. And I think, Clive, if low blocks are going to be this effective against us, we cannot whine when teams drop into a low block. The next evolution for this team is, I don't think the game model has to change, by the way. I don't think it's the game model. I think the talent will have to be, has to improve to manage these situations. And let me only say this. I think we are in a really precarious position right now. This is what injuries can do to you. I think we can wind up in a summer where you start tearing up the game plan or tearing up the analysis when maybe the most obvious thing is just, well, yeah, we didn't have Saka. Well, yeah, we didn't have Kai. Well, yeah, we didn't have Martinelli. Well, yeah, certainly if those players were there, it would look better.
You look way better.
The XG that Liverpool are creating is great and all that, but Salah's 60% of it. Saka was a similar amount of ours. So we are missing a lot of the danger. But to me, that's the thing, Clive. We got to stop whining about low blocks and figure out how to pull them apart.
We have. And there are people shouting in their devices now saying, yeah, but that's the manager's fault that we can't break down low blocks. He's a little bit hamstrung at the moment without the players he's got. So let's just think this through, though, because I think low blocks were a problem for us anyway. And and I've said it before a million times in podcasts. I'm sorry, I got to say it again because people forget. When Newcastle came to the Emirates a couple of years ago, and I think they got a 0-0 draw when ball in play time was like 22 seconds. Remember that day? And and they showed everybody how to stop us, right? So, and they make us play outside of their shape. And now a lot of teams do that. A lot of times we overcome it, and the times that we don't, we all say we have, including me, we all say we've got a problem with low blocks. But I do think we need to create some strategies around low blocks, right? So Mikel's strategy was we would manipulate the ball into the final third, invert cross to the back post. We got 2 box crashes in Marino and Havertz. We do it that way. Odegaard does little dink passes. I don't think we're good enough edge of area shooters for the cutbacks. So Rice scored a party goal in this game. We've seen that goal against Spurs when they collapsed in. Party puts top corner. Rice does the same thing. So if we're going to play against low blocks, we have to think about this. We've got to think about, okay, teams are giving us wide areas, knowing one across. They only give you spaces because they're not scared of you in those spaces. So if teams give us wide areas, we say, okay, we're going to make sure we have more than just Saka in wide areas. We're going to make sure that we got people that want to tear past you in wide areas. So you can't just sit in the middle with 3 lumps waiting to stop the cross. You have to stretch out your back line. If we are playing against low blocks, we have to have edge of area shooters. We have to. And in this game, Trossard and Odegaard had the edge of area shots, and they did not deliver. Right? So
Marino had one as well, yeah.
Marino had the first one, right? So
10 yards out.
Very
maybe.
similar. And he reverse shot. That was a big moment that was. That goes in, we smashed that team. We know that.
Yep.
We smashed them. And so if this is what we need to do, this is why Sesko was my shout, because I thought we were already pushing teams back. When Havertz came into the team, we scored a few goals in the air. I thought we haven't got two Havertzes, and so we just go and get the other one, right? So, because again, you give him the ball in the end in the box against low blocks. He's 6'5" and he jumps out of his boots. Are you going to let us do that, or are you going to try to mid block us a little bit more? Teams tell you about you. They're going to give us the wide areas and going to say, "Go on, cross it to a midfielder up front. Go on, cross it." And so they're letting us have these areas. And so I agree with you, we haven't got to throw it all away. We just need to say, okay, we've created this dominance. We have defenders who can literally stand halfway into their half and be comfortable. We've got a goalkeeper look after it, so we control the back end of the pitch. We've got centre mids look after the ball. So what do we need to do? We need to create offensive talent that are happy in the top end of the pitch, that want to be there, that can really break people down with carrying, agility, and threat and movement. And that's what we need. And we haven't got enough of that, I'm afraid. A lot of the falls we have are for the earlier iteration of Arteta's football. So he's coached himself a problem, and now he needs to coach past it.
Yeah, that's well said. I think whenever you analyze, and I've said this before, I've used this sort of science analogy of a control. Whenever you analyze, you want the fewest variables possible so you can feel confident in the conclusions that you're drawing. And I just think when Kai and Saka and Martin Elliot, at least until the second half, and Jesus, and are out of the team, and you can wind up drawing conclusions that would look silly actually under normal circumstances. And so constantly reevaluating is tricky in these situations. I want to just quickly, Clive, I think just ask you about Martin Odegaard then, because you pulled me up on the comment I made about Odegaard doing better than Rice in certain situations, and I do think that Odegaard was really good in the first half. I think people get frustrated with the little scoopy balls over the top he's trying to play. That what else do you want?
Yeah, I mean, runners.
Yeah, there's just not a lot else on. But he was popping up on the left. He was popping up on the right.
Yep.
He was he was getting involved. He was quickening the tempo. I think it is the case, obviously, that the last thing is not coming off for him the way people would like. Certainly the shooting is not as good as it should be.
Yeah.
And I think he had a much poorer second half than first half when the game lost its structure in some respect. But I wonder where you are with him right now, because I think it's just starting to feel like sort of a lost season, in the sense that I don't know that we're going to see the Martin Odegaard of his absolute elite level at this point. He fizzles and pops in periods, and then maybe drifts out of games at other times. His shooting power doesn't seem to be there. What's your take on what he's going through right now? And is it maybe just as simple as, for a player like Odegaard, relationships all over the pitch are how he's going to thrive, and those broken relationships mean we're seeing a less effective Odegaard?
Yes, there's a few ways I can go at this, Elliot. I think in this game, I thought there was periods in the game where he was outstanding. But what did they lead to? Right? So I got people in my timeline saying to me, Clive, he keeps turning around on the ball and not passing it forward. Well, you know what? If Saka was ahead of him, he'd pass it forward. Yeah. So what he's doing is turning around to wait for people to get up, then he lays it off. Is he too ball dominant, Elliot? That's a question to ask. Does he define us almost too much? So when he's on, we're great.
Do you mean like could he stay between the thirds more and wait for the ball to come to him and find the pockets of space instead of always coming to the ball and coming back and moving around?
He does everything. He might as well clean the dressing rooms at the same time. Honestly, he does everything. Yeah. And is that something for some people? By him doing everything, he's actually holding us back, and we've become defined by him. We've become defined by his passing, his movement. Who, by the way, second half against PSV, we were pretty happy with some of those passes, weren't we? Some of those movements, etc. So again, we've become defined by this player at the moment. The shooting has definitely gone off, for definite. The threat has gone. Not just his partners, but his own individual threat. Again, that scores by stretchers who stretch the play, allows for cutbacks, and then we can get him to shoot the edgy area. There was a period he was doing that a lot. Again, that's part of the low block stuff. You run people back, they collapse, then you cut back for shots. Poor in this game in that regard. But gotta say, when he's good, we are very good. And when he's not there, we're all crying for him to come back. But are we trapped in Odegaard's game? and this is why we need some dominant wide attackers that say to everybody, this is where the ball's going. How quickly can we get it there? And how quickly can we get up behind them and support them? We have one outstanding wide attacker. We got some others which are okay, but they don't strike the same fear. It's very hard to replicate Bukayo Saka, by the way. Like it's Liverpool to replicate Salah. They don't come along to every 2 minutes. But I think we need to invest more in our game. And if we are a team that attacks and creates some wide areas, then make sure you invest in it. For me, it was never just about centre forwards, but having two profiles of centre forwards that are the same, taller forwards, but really the investment need to be in wide areas because that's what we do. Everything we do, manipulate the ball and we go wide. And that's where we create from. That's where our pods start from. That's where we underlap. That's what we do. Our triangles, rat attack, in behind. That's what we do. But I don't think we've invested in wide areas enough. And also, essentially, we've really suffered with the injury to Jesus and Havertz.
Yeah. Teams are so much about complementary profiles. I think when you put the complementary profiles next to one another, suddenly players look a lot better. When you put the wrong profiles next to each other, they look worse. I mean, there is no better example of this, by the way, than the England team. Because just look at the number of very, very good players that got criticized for not being very good because they were next to the wrong players. Look at Declan Rice standing next to Kobe Minu, who can't progress the ball at all. And suddenly Declan Rice has to do the ball progression for two players. And it's Declan Rice can't pass forward. Well, Declan Rice had 15 final third entries in this game, something like that. When he's standing next to the right players and in the right group, suddenly looks very different.
It's quite interesting in this game. And in the last game, Timbers had two excellent games, but he's got Ethan and Odegaard passing him the ball. And so he is the thrust in this team. Yeah. He's the one. They are two tens wanting the ball to feet to manipulate for two runners. So Timber's running out of he's doing so much work, right? He's broke open the last two games for us, right? And so the Odegaard Ranieri thing, it works, but it doesn't work, Elliot.
It doesn't work. They want to. You know what it reminds me of? To use it reminds me of the left-hand side of the England team again, use the England analogy again, where you have players that all want to stand in the same space, right? Top of the box, half space. That's where they want to operate. Ethan and Odegaard both want to operate in that space. Yeah.
And a lot of, and Odegaard's maybe getting a bit of stick because people are picking teams for the future. And they can see Ethan's got a big foot. He can hit that ball really hard. And they're saying,
it was an off game for him, though, to be fair.
It wasn't a great game for him. Yeah, he had a couple of moments which weren't great. But
you know what? Dallo just had his number, by the way. Like, sometimes that happens.
I think it was just, again, I watched it this morning. I think he was just, he's trying to find his way into the game. So it's just experience, retention of width. He didn't really hold it. And he got himself into central areas, and the ball, as soon as he moved central, it's like, oh, if I'd have stayed out wide, I'd have got it. Do you know what I mean? One of those sort of things. And that's just experience. He's learning. He's learning. I think somebody said this to me, it might have been you, Elliot. He said, this is the biggest occasion of his career, potentially. That could be the biggest crowd he's ever played in front of.
Yeah, yeah. So can I ask you a question about this? Look, it is the case, I think, that when people are frustrated, one of the things they really want to hear is they want to hear you stick the boot into the player that they are most frustrated with. And the bigger the personality and the bigger the wage and the bigger the talent perception, the more the frustration. So people are getting quite stuck into Martin Odegaard right now. And teach their own, man. The one thing that I've gotten old enough to understand to do is not tell people how to fan. If the way you want to fan is to vent and to be frustrated with the player, like obviously as long as you're not actually abusing them, like mentioning them on social media or doing anything like that, then be my guest. It's a game of opinions after all. But one thing that I'm sort of curious about whether Mikel might look at doing, before Saka went down, I think Nwaneri was very much seen as an 8. And I think that is his future. Martinelli is back now. Leo is available. Is there a world where if we're struggling with these low blocks, you just scoot Odegaard over and you let Ethan play right 8 and Odegaard play left 8 and drop Rice back? I mean, like, we're trying weird things like Kieran Tierney at left wing instead of bringing on Sterling, fine. And we're trying all kinds of strange things. Marino dropping back into midfield definitely didn't work. Why not try Odegaard and Nwaneri together. I mean, I
I'm
realize he
sure it's
wasn't going to do
coming.
that in this game, but you know,
I'm sure it's going to happen, Elliot. As sure as anything. It's not because the game state will allow for it. We haven't got to pick teams from the start like that. If we go 1-0 down and Ethan's available and Odegaard's playing well, you take an defensive midfielder out and you have 2 10s playing there, and that's what you do. You chase the game. He's having the options,
yeah,
and we're watching a young player develop into his role, into the team, and at the moment he's excellent. Obviously he's excellent. He's going to be a superstar. That's common knowledge within the game.
yep,
But he's not going to be a superstar every single second, every single game at 17 years of age. I mean, Trossard's not a superstar in every single game. He's one in, one out, right? So, and he's 30. So
yeah.
we just have to wait, be patient, know when the right time is to let somebody go. I'm looking forward to the day when he feels really comfortable in his role and he starts smacking the back of that net because he's coming, right? And all we got to do is make sure he gets there in one piece.
Yeah, I want to talk about the free kick situation, the foul leading up to it, the free kick that they score, and then a second half that I find really frustrating and troubling. I mean, there are two different problems in a game, and this is what's interesting, right? As frustrated as I am by the first half, where we absolutely dominated them within an inch of their life, but created
Yep.
nowhere near what we should.
Yep.
That is at least a reflection of Arsenal being too good for a bad Manchester United, but not good enough to find the goal. That can happen.
Yep.
What happened in the second half shouldn't happen. That's a different problem. That's playing poorly against poor opposition. And when you've got Aiden Heaven, who we saw in LA, is probably not ready for this level of football, not even being troubled by Arsenal in the Premier League. Like that kind of stuff, that's frustrating. And that's the kind of thing that we have to analyze. So I want to do all that. And think we do have to probably look a little bigger picture about just what's left in the Premier League and how we're going to address that. But I think a good palate cleanser before we have to talk about this free kick and whether 11 yards is greater than 10 yards. That's the math problem we're all going to be asked to solve in the second half. The first thing I should do is tell you that if you ever want to watch match reviews of the day programs, but you're not in the geography where you're allowed to watch that, you need a VPN. Now, I'm not saying you wanted to watch it this time, although Clive clearly did, but you may want to watch it sometime after we beat Chelsea 7-0 next weekend. So then you could use NordVPN. NordVPN's an app. You put it on your device. I just used it, actually. I wanted to see Mikel's Sky interview that he apparently, quote unquote, walked out of. I think Andrew Arsblog had the right answer on this, which is simply, he's being ushered to another interview and the interviewer tries to get in a last question and he's already sort of walking off. So he's like, no, sorry, I'm going to go. But, your mileage may vary. Anyway, I clicked browse in UK. Instantly, that video is available to me. And it also protects you. It protects you from threats. Nord gets really good ratings for the speed that you get when you're using their VPN. So that's pretty important too, because obviously you don't want the speed of your internet slowed down by using a VPN. It's one click simple. You also get threat protection. So if you're watching streams and you're worried about threats from those streams, it's a good thing to use. I would definitely recommend it. You can even sign up for like streaming services abroad and save money on that. So NordVPN, grab your exclusive deal by going to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months on top. So it's a discount and 4 months on top, which that's a pretty good deal, it sounds like. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. It's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And Shopify. I know so many talented people who are artistic and make things and, or manufacture products or do t-shirts or mugs or all kinds of cool artwork. Obviously, poorly drawn Arsenal, brilliant. If you want to start a business, if founded in 2025 sounds good to you, the single biggest thing is you need an e-commerce platform where you can sell your products and people look at it and say, yeah, I'd buy from that website. The other thing is you want your products to be available on like Instagram, Facebook, all the social media sites and things like that. You should be able to be an expert at making the things you love to make without needing to be an expert in e-commerce. Shopify lets you build what looks like a world-class Fortune 500 level e-commerce website that sells on all the platforms, takes care of shipping and tax and cart checkout. And, oh, you forgot something in your cart. Would you like to check out? All the things the good shopping sites do, right? Makes you feel like you're running a pro business, but all you do is click and drag and design the website to look how you want with point and click. No coding or anything like that. So I can't recommend highly enough if you do want to start a business. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision to start selling with Shopify today. That's shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And last but not least, of course, our friends at Manscaped. Spring cleaning isn't just for finally tossing that fedora you swore to make would make a comeback. What's wrong with the fedora? It's for hitting reset on your grooming routine. Manscaped Beard and Balls Bundle. Now, here's the key. You are responsible for knowing which goes on your beard and which goes on your balls. I cannot be there to tell you that. If you put the beard hedger on your balls and the ball trimmer on your beard, you're going to wind up with a very low beard and you're going to wind up with very weird looking balls. And I don't want that for you. Nothing says fresh start like sharp beard and, more importantly, proper landscaped lawn. The beard hedger has 20 adjustable settings on a flywheel so that you can get the exact level you want on your beard. Keeps you crisp. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra has a dual blade system so you can go completely fresh, right? It's got an interchangeable foil and trimmer blade, which is pretty cool. It's got skin-safe technology, of course, to avoid nicks. Up to 60 minutes of runtime on the beard hedger, 75 minutes on the lawnmower. So, I mean, if it takes you 2 minutes to do your beard and 2 minutes to do your privates, then, you know, you can go weeks and weeks and weeks without needing to charge the thing. They work wet dry, which is great. LED light on the lawnmower so you can see what you're doing. There's a built-in travel lock so it doesn't run in your bag, and there's 30-day money-back guarantee. I think absolutely great. Don't cut corners on your grooming routine. Upgrade to the Beard and Balls bundle with manscaped.com. Promo code ArsenalVision. Get 20% off and free shipping. Or if you need it, you can find Manscaped at a store near you. There you go. That's new. Get the Beard and Balls bundle for 20% off, free international shipping with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. Do it now. Clive, send over that.
Indeed.
Got it. Okay, so we get countered on. Calafiori gets kind of tangled up with Mazraoui. Leo gets in a foot race. Mikel was pretty critical of Leo, I think, in his comments after the match.
It's not good.
And he gives away the foul, and Mikel says, "We know that's the thing we have to not do." Do you want to just quickly touch on Mikel's comments on this and the way we wind up giving away the free kick?
Yeah, so long ball, right? Calafiori, aerial challenge with Mazraoui, as you said, and he wins it, and he heads it up to Trossard. Now, Trossard wins the second ball, but what he tries to do is he didn't retain it. In my football world, Elliot, I'll be saying to my boy, help it on, son. Help it on. But Trossard, who has a weakness, by the way, for passing backwards, gee whiz, he can pass forwards. When he passes backwards, bad things happen. He doesn't quite get his touch right. So now he's trying to recover it. So he's recovering it. He's in a race with Garnacho. Garnacho does the right thing, keeps the ball safe side, just waits he's close enough to the goal and takes the foul. Football foul, end of story. You messed up your touch, son. You've lost the race. He's protecting the ball, and you haven't got it. So done, right? So, and again, it's about dominating your area. They didn't dominate their area. So the first header was okay, just about okay. Another coach's shout: could you have gone bigger with the header? You know, could you have gone further up so you get people a chance to get under it? So you head it up, Elliot, so you get a chance to get under it and then really compete for it. And it also gives people a chance to organise themselves defensively. But he sort of headed it slightly down. But Trossard won it, though. Didn't deal with it very well at all. And they get the free kick. And it's a deserved free kick.
I'm going to give you a data point. And it's a pretty remarkable data point. I know you love data. 92%. 92% of Arsenal fans WhatsApped a friend, this is going in. Incredible data point there.
As you make it 92.1. I think it was a weird thing. Right? Again, one of the tweets I deleted was, that wall don't look right. You know what I mean? Because you're watching the TV and you're watching this set up and you're thinking, hold on a minute, this is weird. You know, I know 10-year-olds can kick that ball in that net. Do you see what I mean? This is weird.
Should he have marched him right back to the goal line? Would that have helped?
I will say Anthony Taylor, I thought he had a really good game, but boy, when we get a referee mistake, it seems to cost us, doesn't it? You know, that's one of the basics of the game. It really is. And I watched it this morning. I watched where the free kick was taken from. I watched where the foul was. I looked at it and Bruno might have moved it back about a foot, but not much more than anybody else would have. And it was literally, as far as I saw, the referee just marched them back and kept them back. Again, one of the tweets I deleted earlier, and you tell me, I sort of said, sometimes Arsenal have this naive streak that goes across them sometimes, you know, and it looked strange. But nobody seemed to argue. Am I right? Did I see that right?
I didn't
Nobody
see
said
anything.
we
Yeah.
should have been absolutely all over it. We should have been creeping. We should have been creeping the moment the
Of course
referee
you should
turned
have.
around. You got to do everything in your power to disadvantage this guy's going to take the
Yeah, of
kick,
course.
and we did it, mate. I think I'm right on this. And I said I'm going to explain it on the podcast. We're a bit naive sometimes. I don't know. I can't describe this right. Somebody tell me. I just think sometimes we let things happen to us and we do stupid things. That was all our own doing. They've not been in our half. We can't do with a second ball. We give them just what they want. They haven't put 5 passes together, literally done nothing. And we give a guy that's not bad at striking a football on his right foot outside the area on almost the perfect place to put the ball down to score. And then we have a 11.5 yard wall. And it's just like, oh my God. I sometimes struggle to think how the players hold their belief sometimes. Because all our belief went out the window at that point, thinking, this can't be happening. This can't be happening.
Yeah, I mean, look, Liverpool beat Southampton at home, and they were always going to beat Southampton at home. But they did it with 2 penalties. You know what I mean? Mohamed Salah now has this is crazy stat. He has 9 Premier League penalties. That's as much as any Arsenal player has Premier League goals.
Yeah.
He's got the same number
Havertz.
of penalties
Yeah.
as our top scorer has goals. Okay? The only reason I bring it up is it's like you can at least acknowledge, even if you were the most critical fan, that geez, some days it just feels like everything this season that could get punished gets punished. You dominate a half. You don't find the way through. That's our fault. Blame us. Totally fair.
Yeah.
They get 1 free kick. The wall's 11 yards back. Bruno picks out something from the top corner of not top corner, let me say this, from the top shelf of quality, gets it up and down, scores a free kick from 25 yards out. And all of a sudden you're behind in a half where they've kicked the ball twice. It is definitely our season in a microcosm, but I do think it is at least worth noting. I think in the moment, Clive, my reaction was, David Raya, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But having read a lot and listened to a lot and looked at it again and knowing as little about goalkeeping as I do and listening to James McNicholas on the Artscast mention that he thinks Inaki Kana really talks about he wants keepers to protect their side on free kicks. Look,
Yeah.
Raya is not beaten in the corner, and he doesn't get close enough to something that's not in the corner. My opinion is still that Raya should do better and is in the wrong place. But if the wall is 10 yards back, it never gets over it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Actually, I think the key for Raya is to see the ball. And so this is not my analysis. I saw Match Today 2 last night.
He's 5'4". I mean, you can't.
No. I'll explain to you what happened because I thought it was brilliant analysis last night from Shay Given actually on the TV.
Well, he knows a thing about being a short keeper.
Exactly that. It's very good, really. Basically, there's a gap between one wall and the other. So Partey was slightly to one side, and what Xerxes did. So what Raya was doing, he could see the ball all the time, see the ball. And what Xerxes did is he pushed Partey into the gap between the 2 walls. He pushed him into it, and suddenly Raya couldn't see it. And then by the time he sees the ball, it's already going past the wall at the head height, and then he hasn't got time to adjust it. If he sees he's confident. If he sees the ball, I can get it wherever it goes. But I couldn't see it, so he lost the 11.2 yards before he saw it, and then it becomes how much reaction time I've got. My gut tells me he was too far over, but I think he was too far over so he could see the ball. And
Interesting.
they took that vision away from him, and then it went in. Now, I didn't see that when I was watching in the pub yesterday. I didn't see that, so I saw that this morning. And actually, it correlates perfectly to what actually happened. My gut told me you were a little bit far over, but the reason why it's far over because that was the angle he could see it. Was that wall in the right place, the right aggression? We know what happened there. For me, it's naive, mate. I don't care if you run forward 3 yards. Let them take it again. Let them take it again. Make it last till they blow to half time. I don't care. Do whatever you can to protect your goal. Do not give anybody anything easy.
Yeah, and I do wonder, we are a team that sometimes I think is emotional. I mean, if you go back to a couple seasons ago, remember that was the narrative. We're too emotional. We are an emotional team. I think that's true. I don't know if we're more emotional than other teams. How do you measure that? I don't know, hook people up to electrodes and measure their brain waves or something. But I think going into the half with that as the gut punch may explain the second half too, because it is hard for a team that has spent 2 seasons chasing Manchester City to a title. Now knowing the title is really totally gone. Clive, I remember not last season, but the season before, after the Saliba and Tomiyasu injuries, and Holding came in, and the season fell to pieces a little bit. There was a moment there against Brighton. Do you remember the Brighton game?
I went to it, the home game.
Yeah. Where we were battering them a little bit. And then there's a slip. Is it Kivior and he doesn't get up and they get the
box.
goal?
It was funny header or something like that.
They get the goal.
We were weak.
And our heads went down. Yeah. And our heads went down, and I think you just saw them say, there's just nothing left to fight for. Enough. There was a bit of a wave in the white
3-3 Southampton. Enough.
Exactly. And give up the ghost. And I just wonder if that sucker punch in that moment, knowing we still have the Champions League to go and the league is just completely fucking gone, do you think there's just a little bit of the players where it's like that? Because you have to be so laser focused to play our way, to dominate games our way, to mind the details, that maybe just for a bit there, we lost our way. And that helps explain the second half a bit.
Again, watching it cold, I think we were so good in the first half. Their team talk is, we just go, let's be more aggressive. Let's see if we can knock them out. And they nearly did. Mm-hmm. The Mazraoui chance on the back post. They were committing more bodies forward. They were running forward with a bit more aggression. They didn't do any of that in the first half. And it created a slightly more open game because we had to chase the game. We had to get that goal back, So I didn't see, also Elliot, that we weren't as dominant, right? We didn't have much of the ball. They created some good chances. We weren't as dominant. But I still saw an urgency. I still saw us trying to go for it. We were just, the other team was on the pitch in a better state than we were in the first half, which, by the way, they could not be any worse, right? So it was far more of a competition. We lost a few one-on-ones. We let a few bubbly balls go in the centre. Some of our passing was slightly inaccurate, but we were still trying to be ourselves. But now we had a better competition playing us. So the game became more even by design. I wasn't sure, if I'm honest with you, that the substitutes, I'm not sure you're going to come on to that, but I'm not sure if the substitutions made us stronger. I didn't feel that.
That was my stock falling, by the way.
Was it?
One of my 2 stock fallings in the instant reaction was the subs. I thought we needed, I think we broke our midfield structure. I want to come to this. So if you're not ready to come to this yet, let's not, because I want to talk about what
you talk to it. And I just thought it's more of a, contest, but I could still see us trying to score. I wasn't looking up there thinking we gave up the ghost. I didn't feel that. They were just better in the second half. They had 3 excellent chances, which we managed to get 3 excellent saves on, which gave them a lot of hope. And I felt their crowd became more connected. I thought that once we got the goal, what it did is it woke up Old Trafford, at 1-0. And they thought, we got a chance here to have a day in the sunshine. Arsenal being Arsenal, not doing the job. They're way better than us, but they haven't kicked it in our net. And we've got a goal out of nowhere. And no doubt they're all watching Sky on their phones at half time. And they realise 11.2 yards away. And they're probably laughing. They're laughing themselves silly. And they decide to support their team. So it became much more of a contest. Much like in the FA Cup game, if you connect the fans to the team, Manchester United had something to hold on to, and they defended for their lives. Everybody got better. Lindelof ain't played for ages. He was fine. Delete always seems to play well against us. Aiden Heaven came on. I'm thinking, okay, you're in a bit of trouble here. He was blowing, but he got through it.
Yeah,
it did okay, right? And so they have 5 defenders back there, and they kept him in a line, and they defended for their lives, right? And covers all sides of the pitch. So it's much more of a contest, not a midfield contest, but a contest where from back line through the third, straight onto our back line on a counter-attack. So it made us look like we didn't play as well. Where really we should have done better when we were more dominant in the first half.
Well, and it's funny too, because this shows you how Mikel-pilled we've become. Because in the first half, we were quote unquote more dominant. We had 0.6 expected goals on 6 shots. They had 0.1 expected goals on 2 shots, one of which was the free kick, right? The other one was just a totally speculative bit of nonsense, which I think was probably a cross actually and shouldn't have been counted as a shot even. So let's say 1 shot for the free kick. So that's our dominant period. Second half, we had 69% possession. We had 11 shots. We had 1.01 expected goals. The problem is we had 1.42 expected goals conceded, 8 shots conceded, right? So we felt less comfortable. And we're very Mikel pilled, I'm saying, because we consider the first half more dominant, but maybe like there's a bit of a lesson that it might be incumbent upon us to play games that are a little more scarier and a little more open and hope that we get the better of it if we're not going to be able to batter down these low blocks. Now, the other team has to be willing to participate in that. I'll just ask you super quick, because there's a couple of things I want to get onto in the second half that are pretty major. We saw Martinelli come on at halftime. Do you have any quick thoughts on him returning to action? I think, what do you think?
I thought he did fine. First game back. I don't like him on the right, but he makes it work up to a point, put a couple of good crossing, couple of good spin and go running behind.
Should his one big moment, should he shoot across the goal where he hits it straight?
Absolutely. I don't know what he's doing. Again, naivety.
Yeah, that's immature
naivety.
Like,
just like, okay, you're not going to score from there, but you hit it hard. That goalkeeper throws him in, right? Just go across the goal. Trossard was there. Delite was there. He could have kicked it in.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't be naive, and I think that's just the thing for me. I want us to grow up in these moments under pressure. That's what I want to see us do. That's the difference for us. Can we be ruthless in these moments, or at least do what we think we should do? And everybody's sitting there saying, go across the goal. And he didn't, right? So for me, that's an issue.
He also missed a very, very presentable chance that, he was offside, so it doesn't matter, but you'd like to see him that in the back of the net anyway.
That chance should have gone in from Odegaard. That's an Odegaard
chance,
of
course.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was one from Trossard quite similarly when Tierney put it back to him.
Tierney, beautiful little cutback. Can I ask you a question about that, actually? One of the things that used to be a really big hallmark of our game 2 seasons ago was cutbacks to late runners. And I wonder if it's just that we don't have a center forward now collapsing the box, so the space isn't there to cut back.
They gave us the space.
Cutbacks are gone. The cutbacks are gone. Yeah.
They gave us the space. This is on us. That's what I wanted to tell you. I don't often go to numbers, Elliot. Between Trossard and Odegaard, I think it's 11 shots. Right? So that's a lot. Right?
Yeah.
So and a lot of them were like that. Edge of area shots. Blocks. Trying to shoot through people, you can't shoot for people. I don't mind the shooting. I just want them one or two to go in. That's all I want, right? So they worked the spaces really well. We didn't do the job, mate. I promise you, when they do a review of this game, they'll be reviewing the first half a lot more than the second half. I promise you that. And what we didn't do when we have a team literally begging to be killed, right? So that's the half we need to focus on, because we'll do that again in the next game. And the game after that. It's what we do in that first phase of the game that's important.
I will say one funny moment in this game that we haven't touched on, doesn't need a conversation though, was when Lindelof choke slammed Marino, and there was no call on that. I think actually Lindelof got the call. It's a pretty funny one. All right, let's come to the subs now. This is where I think the game got a little bit wonky, and there's a part of me that thinks when you don't have a lot of options, it's hard to be overly critical, because what's he going to do? He's trying something. I said on the instant reaction, I thought it's a little weird to bring on Tierney ahead of Sterling, and both Phil and Paul were basically like, no, it's not. Basically,
it's not. I thought it was weird to bring him on again ahead of Zinchenko, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah,
but that's my thoughts.
But I am a little bit sort of surprised that he. So if you look at the subs, right, it's Martinelli at halftime, obviously, right? Is it at halftime? No. It's 58 minutes. Sorry, 58 minutes. Yep. Miles Lewis-Skelly comes on for Ricardo Calafiori. That, I guess, in theory, could have been Zinchenko there if you wanted to add a little verticality, but I understand the decision to bring Miles on, especially with some of the challenge that we were getting. Garnacho was really their biggest threat. He did well, I thought. Martinelli comes on for Ethan. And then it's Tierney for Thomas Partey. There's no room for Jorginho to come on. I thought he was an option for Partey instead. I thought certainly that Zinchenko could have come on. Not that he was effective when he did come on against Forest. And Sterling is an option, but clearly an option that we just no longer really feel super committed about using. So what are your thoughts about the subs and how they changed for the better or the worse, the way the games went?
Yeah, obviously things stick out to you. So Reno getting caught, you wondered if that would have happened in the in the early parts of the game, receiving it closed off. Don't like that. Tierney was okay. Personally, I think Zinchenko is a better option for that role. I think he gets on the ball more and he's more creative. I think Tierney, he's a fine player, but he's quite one-dimensional. He does one thing: he runs in straight lines and he crosses in straight lines. Right, so that's what he did. But maybe they wanted to block off that side. Garnacho was the guy to double left back it, on that side, and Miles went inside and did some really good stuff when he travelled inside. So I could sort of see that one. I just felt, I'm not sure it gave us anything new. It gave us a team that was sort of a bit more desperate, but not a little bit less structured. So yeah, I didn't feel that it made us stronger, Elliot, but I sort of understood it. I think Partey's form tends to flatten out this time of year. If you look at all of his seasons when he's been fit, towards this time of year, he does have a flatten out period, right? And I can always tell the way he receives the ball. When he receives the ball, if he's stretching, that means he's not quite right. And the manager starts to take him off and start to manage him. I think that's been his issue from his entire time at Arsenal. I think someone who's almost could last 3/4 of a season, but not quite the whole season. And Declan Rice was making him redundant anyway, because he was doing all of the running for everybody. So if I'm the manager, I'm thinking, let's let Declan do what he's doing, and let me add something else into his team, into a forward area. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's bring him back. So I can see the maths there. For him, it's a game of mathematics and making sure there's no redundancy on the pitch. Right? So, but it didn't really give me what I wanted. And what I wanted was for us to surge back to where we were in the first half and dominate the closing period of the game, which we didn't. It became a 50-50, smacking each other in the face, which wasn't what I expected from a lowly Manchester United team. It became a true contest. And I'll be honest with you, I said to you earlier on, when the final whistle went, I was sort of, okay, I'll take that. Because we could have easily lost it. Very easily lost it. And so, yeah, it's all our own doing. But in the context of the final few minutes of that game, I thought, okay, I'm all right with it. Because I don't want a loss to them.
No, I mean, it's a draw that feels like a loss under the circumstances, I think, but a loss was unthinkable to that team. And I have to admit, I didn't see the goal coming. I really didn't. So we'll come to that in a minute. I want to talk about Mikel Merino for a second. This was a very poor performance. And you have to be careful, right? Because when you express an opinion on a player before you sign them, and I expressed the opinion that I wasn't sure this was the right signing to make. I think anytime you analyze the player, people will then come back and be like, well, you never liked the player. And I totally accept that there is some of that. You do. Everybody's guilty of reverting to their priors. And I think it's also the case, and you've called me out for this, Clive, in that, and Paul has brilliantly called me out for it as well, that I've been frustrated with Mikel Merino for not being Eberechi Eze, right? Like, which he was never going to be. That my criticism of him is more, I wanted a different profile. And Mikel wanted this profile. Mikel Arteta wanted this profile. And that's totally fine, right? He knows more about what he's doing than I do. But even if I accept that, I think the other problem you're going to run into being critical of his performance is there are going to be people who are just going to say he sort of gets a pass because he's playing striker as a midfielder. And I think if you're on the pitch, then you're open to criticism. The scary thing, though, for me is I actually thought where he was poorest potentially was when he dropped back into midfield. A couple of bit of data points on this game. He was 70% passing. He had one shot in the game. That was in the 8th minute. After that, he didn't have a shot in a game where we had 68% of the ball and a lot of it in the final third. He lost the most duels in the game. 14 lost duels in this game is, it's not great, Bob. 3 of 11 on ground duels, 1 of 7 on aerial duels. Now, I will say, as I did in the instant reaction, that the aerial duels are coming against center backs, right? Because he's spending a lot of time at center forward. So he gets credit for that. Harder to win duels in that part of the pitch, but it is what it is. He did have the one really nice pass to Martinelli, who was just in acres of space. Don't know what United were doing. As usual, their shape was a mess, and Martinelli should hit it across the goal, as we said. But this is a player that, to me, again, looked like the wrong profile to recruit at the time. He has not really had much of a chance to play the position for which he was recruited. He's now playing striker, which I don't think works. I just don't think he understands how to occupy the center backs and where to move to. But for me, one of the other big things about him, and this has been the case since he arrived, I just think whatever it is that worked about him in La Liga, he looks one step slow in the Premier League. And that one step slower means the passes don't come off. His brain has to move faster. The timing of the way he's doing things isn't as good. And then you obviously have the really ugly moment where he gets the ball taken from him by none other than pressing trigger Casemiro. And Declan Rice absolutely saves his ass by taking the ball off Højlund, who needs approximately 17 and a half minutes to get a shot off. So it's not the best day for Mikel Merino. Your thoughts on him, and maybe in particular when he moved into midfield, because that didn't look super comfortable.
I didn't think we looked more secure when he moved into midfield. That was my feeling. Apart from the one big giveaway, I couldn't fully put it down to him, but I just didn't feel we were organised like we were. You know,
does he look like he lumbers around the pitch? He looks a bit lumbering to me.
See, this is it. This is it. Because, by the way, I heard this, that he covered the most kilometres in the whole game of any other player on the pitch. Right?
That's kind of what our striker is asked to do, which is
and I think issue we could discuss. That's a big tick. Because I thought he was around the ball quite a lot. Right? So I can't remember anything brilliantly good, but I can't remember anything brilliantly bad apart from the one thing. So we had another hard-working 6'2" bloke to our team. And I think this is the issue, right?
Would you say a bank manager, perhaps?
He's a sensible bloke that does what he says on the tin. I'm a midfielder. I'm 6'2". I head and kick it and I pass it forward, right? And I'm a little bit slow. You know what I mean? I got my 12 Martins on, but I'm a little bit slow. But I'm gonna do what you want me to do, right? So basically, the problem is this is the problem with this signing for me, which I'm all right with. It is what it is. I never worry about signings and this because nothing's going to happen until July the 1st, whenever it is, right? So he's here right now and he's fit and available. The problem with this signing for me is what it represents. Does it represent, for me, in my head, it represents that we haven't evolved our team enough. We haven't. What we tried to do was recreate Havertz we in the midfield role when we should have been trying to thinking, okay, should we do something else? You know, what is the next phase for our team? What are we missing? So what we've added is another 6'2" sensible passer that's not really dynamic, can't really move. And when we lack dynamism and movement because our main two dynamic sprinters are not available, and Havertz is a brilliant athlete and runner, when we and Jesus, who's really explosive, when you take them out, you look around the team, and what do you see? You see a 6'2" left back that looks like Marino on some occasions, right? That lacks a bit of sprinting acceleration, but very dynamic from a flow perspective if the game state suits him. And we've added another midfielder with similar profile. And we've got Declan Rice in the team already and Thomas Partey sitting behind it. And you're saying, should we bring Jorginho on? Well, mate, that's not fixing what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is a lack of dynamism, agility, and movement. Right? Yeah. So that's what we need to add. And so because of that, the prism by which we look at these players has changed because we haven't evolved enough in our attacking style. We haven't evolved enough based on what our coach has given us. He's given us a team which is so dominant and is so forward-thinking. Our centre-backs press up behind, happy man-to-man, take it round corners, tear through the back of people. Timber rips a ball from you. We just rip it from you and we go again. But when we go again, then what? Then what? You know? So part of what we are is these dual-winning midfielders. But what happens when we win it? Have we got the ingenuity to benefit from the game that we have built? And this is my frustration. And who epitomizes that the most of all the players that we have bought is your mate, the bank manager.
Well, what's the opposite of a bank manager? An F1 driver? Who's a not totally trustworthy risk taker? Daredevil. I want one of those. I want someone whose hips lie. I want someone that Shakira hates. I want someone you don't trust to leave your wife with. I want someone you wouldn't give a loan to. I want someone like that. I want that person, the person that scares the death out of you. That's the thing, to your point, like just a little bit of isolated magic of someone that you could put on that pitch and say, go run at them, go scare the shit out of them, go do something that unsettles them, go lose the ball in dangerous areas. Go.
You liked Eze, right? But I'm too sensible because you and Scott have like
Cunha, Eze.
You've taught me stuff, right? You've taught me stuff to be sensible. You like you like Eze, and I straight away go, well, he's 27 now. He's going to cost 70 million quid. We're not going to do Eze.
So
But I did like
that,
I did
though.
like Elise though, who had a fixed price of early 40s, and he's a beautiful player that would have fixed a lot of offensive problems we had this year that I didn't foresee at the time. But when Odegaard was out, we'd have fixed that immediately without changing ways. When Saka was out, we'd have fixed that immediately. So Elise for me was the one I really wanted us to go for because it's a set price and we knew all about him. And he's going to the very, very, very top of this game as a £100 million player. And we let that one go past us. That's the big blow for me.
Mikel, and if we can be better in creativity and chance creating, yes, for sure. That's the responsibility of all of us. And we don't want to put that into the minds. I agree with you. That's fully the initiative that everybody has to take, especially when we defend and attack against so much density. We've done it in the past. We've done it recently, but we have to do it consistently. And I think Mikel has given away the ghost there a bit. And I don't want to pretend he's wrong. He's saying that's fully the initiative that everybody has to take. But here's the thing. Some players can take it better than others. Yeah. Some players can be more creative than others. And Mikel, you probably help yourself a lot if you just recruited a player who likes to play fantasy passes and player.
Honestly, but with this thing about a striker, I get annoyed by it. Also, you need
I'm not even. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you need a couple of centre forwards, right? For me, that's a similar profile. That's where I sit with the area. But for me, it's about wide strikers, about wide forward sprinters. It's about them.
Yes,
one-on-one guys. That's it for me. We haven't got enough of that. We got 30-year-old Trossard who does a fine job in 1 in 2 games, right? We got Martinelli, who some people not having. He's quite a direct sprinting transition forward. We got Saka does the whole lot, right? We got Jesus, who is a wide man, who didn't fancy himself as a wide man, has now gone for a calendar year. So we got Sterling, mate. Sterling, don't give me that look from the bench because you've had chances, mate. Don't give me that. I don't feel sorry for you. I love your career, unbelievable career. You've had moments and you have not delivered in any which way or form. And that's where we found ourselves. So you can blame the manager, you can blame the board, you can blame the recruitment, you can blame Edu. This is where we are. We haven't, for me, my message to the manager would be, mate, look after yourself. You know what you're doing. You've coached this team to an inch of your life. Allow yourself to put some icing on that cake. Have a piece of cake. Let someone do something for you.
That's exactly my point. Yeah, but Clive, that's exactly where it's going to go. Mikel, treat yourself to a fantasy player. Treat yourself to someone who makes this feel easier.
I think he wants to. I think he wants to. But now the situation has gone from, you know what, let's buy a centre forward and let him develop into his group, to now you have to. And because I tell you now, there will be no other fan base watching the transfer window like Arsenal Football Club fans, mate. No, nobody. If I'm them, I'm getting them done the day after the league season ends. Honestly,
get them done before the league season ends. Break a few rules, make people happy. Give us something to talk about at Union Chapel. Look, I will say this: I do think that Mohamed Salah is breaking some people's brains too, though. Because Salah's doing something that is absolutely insane. By the way, that's freaking Southampton at Anfield, and they need 2 penalties to get past them. It's not like they tore them a new asshole. And I'm not undermining Liverpool. They've been brilliant.
They've done their job.
Let's be honest. Chelsea struggled past Leicester at home. You know, Forest just beat City 1-0. City can't buy a goal at Forest, and they've got £1 billion of attacking talent, right? And they added to it a lot in January, and they still couldn't find a goal at Nottingham Forest. And so this league is hard. Teams are struggling. Look at the compression. There's like 10 teams within 2 points of 5th place or whatever it is. The compression is insane. And we are doing this. Bukayo Saka solves problems. That solves problems in the same way Mohamed Salah solves problems. And he wasn't on that pitch. And yeah, it's easy to criticize Mikel Arteta when Mikel Merino is lumbering around the center of the park and, you know, you don't have the wingers you want on the outside and you're lacking the threat and you're asking a 17-year-old to show up at Old Trafford. But at the end of the day, this is a hard league, even against bad Manchester United away, and breaking down teams is hard and scoring goals is hard. And I just wish Mikel would treat himself to one more really elite attacking talent, whether that's a striker, a 10, a winger
Mate,
with
two
pace and
two
dribbling.
more, maybe even
We're going to
three.
need two.
Yeah, and
5, 10, however
I'd
many
say
you want.
three. If you've got to
Sell a
lose
left back.
somebody, I'd say three. You have to change how you look. We're in an era now where we get bored quick. We get bored quick. We really do. You have to evolve quickly. People are not having it, mate. You know, you can close your eyes, you can see how we play. People are getting bored. They need to see the ingenuity in the final end of the pitch. It's not just Arsenal fans, it's all fans. I watched some games this weekend. I know we've got our problems. We know what they are. Mate, I watched Spurs v Bournemouth. I mean, how Spurs got out there with a point? I've never seen
Absolute
anything like that
highway
in my
robbery.
life. The disorganization.
How about just Liverpool against PSG, by the way? Can we just shake our heads? Like, sometimes football's weird, you know?
No, there are, you know, Arsenal played, you can say we played okay, should have done better, a bit frustrated. We can't quite beat Man United like we should do at their place. But we look like a football team. We look organised. We got a couple of individual errors and we didn't deal with a couple of balls in the middle of the pitch. But we look organised. I watch Spurs. Oh my God. They have got no backline organisation at all. They got people walking around. I thought, oh my God. And they got a fluky cross and a penalty, which is the most stupid penalty in the way possible. Bournemouth
Kepa was absolutely match fixing. I'm convinced.
Bournemouth slaughtered them. They looked physically better. They were more dynamic. They had more skillful players. They were excellent. Absolutely excellent. And been a real breath of fresh air this year. I watched Forest City. City are okay. Forest are okay. One punch, goal. Forest just about deserved it. They celebrate on the day. There's nothing happening. And what worries me is that the games are starting to look quite similar. You know, the way we defend, the way we coach, the way we block off teams, where we have mid blocks, low blocks, where we compress in central areas. And it's making us look at our own team like it's the same thing we're seeing every single week. Yeah. Then when teams make mistakes and the game breaks open, do you see a flowing game? And one of the big things from our 18-game run last year when we won 16, draw 1, lost 1 at the start of 2024 was, for me, we broke those games open with set pieces. And then we could play. And once we could play, we know what's happening. We're scoring 4. It's that first goal. We've got to focus on it more. We've got to be more determined. If we concede one, so what? Why wait till 44th minute to concede it? Attack them to death in that first 10. And let's get back to that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about this. There's 18 teams looking up at us in the Premier League, and we feel like we're shit. And it's just and we're 7-1 and through in the knockout rounds of the Champions League. And so this business of just lurching between we're the best, we've underrated our team, we're the worst, we're shit, we can't attack. Like, we're going to have to find an intellectual center, a core value that we can hold on to and believe in. And this is why I said that the experiment, you know, science experiments need a control. When you measure data, there's this question, right? Is it signal or is it noise? How much is signal and how much is noise? And I think right now with the teams we're putting out and the talent that we're missing, there's a lot of noise in the signal and it's making all the analysis very, very messy. 2 things left in this game that we'll do super quick. One is just David Raya. We should at least have a quick save for the fact that this becomes a much harder conversation if David Raya doesn't make a few incredible saves. And I'm happy for him because he could have potentially looked like a villain a bit for his positioning on the free kick. But do you want to just give him his flowers for the job he does against Mazraoui, for the job he does against Bruno? I mean, when that cutback goes to Bruno, Clive, every one of us watching is sucking in breath saying, oh God, we've lost to United. Yeah. And he keeps it out.
Yeah. And again, if you want to analyze Arsenal properly, let's think back to the games this year where he's done amazing saves. We've done really well this year to stay where we are, given the issues that we've had. Some of them self-inflicted, some of them inflicted on us. But mate, just take out some of his major saves, and I wonder where we would be. I wonder where we'd be. In Europe as well, major saves, major moments. In this game, he looked a bit of a schoolboy on the free kick, got done. We made up for it 3 times over, didn't he? So that's what it is.
Brilliant. Declan Rice says he's more proud of his tackle than he is of his goal. That's obviously silly, Declan. Be more proud of your goal. There was some frustration with him celebrating it, which is lunacy. I think it's fair to say. Just people stop ruining football.
You know
Just
what,
stop ruining
Elliot?
football, please.
Should I? I
No.
don't want to say this, but I've got to say it.
Oh, all right.
We're watching the games now through the eyes of Man United people. We're watching the games through Roy Keane and Gary Neville. These are not friends of Arsenal Football Club.
No.
They're not. And the punditry now is as long as the game is.
Yeah,
right? And
longer,
that's what's
usually.
happening. I read the headline this morning, the Match Today want to reduce the football and increase the time on punditry. Because punditry is where the money is, clips, etc. People saying things. There's a race to be extreme in punditry. And I'm afraid not everyone can absorb that punditry at the right level of intelligence. You said a word there, intellectual center. That's a beautiful phrase. We got to find that for ourselves. It doesn't mean we can't say what's wrong. You know, I'm sorry for some people. I don't get angry enough when I say what's wrong. I just say it. Maybe I should shout it a bit more than you might hear it.
I'll say dumber shit so you can get angry. How about that?
But, you know, we got to stay. That's a lovely phrase, intellectual center. We got to remember and look at it and properly and assess it. Don't let people crowd you into a corner and make you not enjoy and see your team appropriately. Because if I ask people today, and I feel this myself, how have you enjoyed this year? When we do have the joy, we're told not to enjoy it. We celebrate too much. They can all go and do one, mate, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm going to say. We got to lock in. We got to hang in there. Make sure we stay in that top two and see where the Champions League takes us.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, just step back. I get it. United are having a shit season and we're all laughing at them and we're frustrated because we want to beat them. It's Manchester United at Old Trafford. You're Declan Rice. You've just scored a banger to equalize late in the game. That's a celebration moment. Yeah. If you can't celebrate scoring an equalizer against a hated rival in the biggest ground in England on the main stage, what are you doing?
But they're thinking we got to chase down Liverpool. Well, most of us realise we're not going to chase down Liverpool.
Come on, stop it. Yeah.
So stop putting us into a context where we can't even celebrate a goal. And this is it. Punditry now is a big thing, right? And it's making people think differently about their own team. But we have to accept, we've spoken about this whole podcast, by the way, some of this is on us. Did we evolve the team enough? Have we done things correctly? Have we developed a low block attacking style that's consistent? Could we add some layers to our attack to make sure we can deal with this situation that we've created by our dominance? We said all those things. People might remember that though, Elliot. They'll probably say we're going to say we played brilliant the whole game, which we didn't, right? So it's a game of football. That's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, just intellectual honesty. I mean, I saw people, saying things on, referencing social media is dumb because people say everything on social media, but it's the point that Liverpool drew to this United team.
Yeah.
I mean, this season. So, and then as a final point, and it was a brilliant goal by Declan Rice. Like, as I said earlier, sometimes the moment asks for you to just produce something. It can't always just be, does your system leave the ball in the net? Last thing, I don't want the rest of the league season to be an existential crisis. We are going to finish top 4, 5, whatever. We're going to finish in the Champions League places. I think we'll finish second. For those of you saying, how can you believe that? City couldn't beat Forest and Chelsea struggled past Leicester. And I mean,
Chelsea game's
there's
big.
just
Chelsea game's on Sunday.
Yeah, the Chelsea game feels big. It's at home. I still think we can win it. Then we have the 2 weeks off for the international break. We're going to have the big Madrid tie, whichever Madrid it is. There's a lot of excitement that'll come from that I think will lift the club, and we need that. So April doesn't feel like just a funeral procession. But can we try to stay focused on the games the rest of the season? Can we try to remember that the league still matters, even if it doesn't feel like there's a lot of jeopardy on it?
Yeah, we need to. It's very important. I guarantee you that, Wednesday is going to be strange because Arsenal price a game where people want their money in their pockets rather than watch a game with very little jeopardy in it. It's going to be interesting to see what the crowd's like. Players are going to have to play because they have a responsibility to entertain people that spent a lot of money in that ground. And then Sunday is huge because we can't lose to them, right? No chance. And nor should we, right? So, but we're not scoring freely in the Premier League. So this is going to be interesting, right? So, but Sunday is a big one for sure.
Yeah, so I think we can leave it there. We have the Andre Alberta pod. I think you should listen to it. He's going to be our sporting director, and it's one to listen to. There's a lot of really good information there. Again, it is just a fantastic amount of information that's transmitted that can teach you about the man that's going to be in a very important role at Arsenal. We'll have a patron pod for you tomorrow. We'll have an instant reaction for you on Wednesday, even though the instant reaction is, that was interesting. What do you think about the Chelsea game?
Let's hope so, right?
But at that point, we will know who we're going to be playing in the next round. So maybe we'll spend a lot of time,
and then we will know soon when Bukayo Saka's back, and he'll brighten all our lives up, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he plays in the quarterfinal. That would change how we feel about things, wouldn't it? Okay,
yeah.
So we'll leave it there. We love you for being here. Thanks for soul searching with us, Clive. I really appreciate you. This was really just what I needed. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name's Elliot Smith, the Blockman Twitter, Yankee Gunner. We love you, and this could happen. We will talk to you after Arsenal 10, PSV 0.